how do you think about, just from a principle standpoint, getting other people involved, like the mechanics of doing that when you bring it up? How do you know who should be involved? How do you go about actually, making that happen? How do you kind of think about that part?
Yeah, this is my favorite thing, because I think this is the thing about selling that has shifted so dramatically in the last, let's say, 5 years, as consensus continues to rise as a way that companies make buying decisions. So what I will compare what I used to do to how I think now. I used to think the farther along those conversations went, the more I had to push to the outcome of selling it. Right. So it's like, I don't want to back up once I'm here because I'm close to the finish line. So I got to keep pushing. And how do I just get this deal done quickly? That resulted in a lot of loss to status quo deals for me. Now, my philosophy is, if I get an individual on board with the problem we're solving and how we're solving it, at that point, now I need to decide, is this person someone that has the credibility, the willingness, and the ability to actually go and steward a conversation with the broader team? I don't need them to have the entire conversation, but I need them to be able to bring it up. So that's job number one is, am I actually attached to the right person who, if they go to other people in the business, they're not going to roll their eyes? And that might sound obvious, but there were plenty of times where I put my deal in the hands of someone who just said all the right things. And then I realized they have no credibility back. So that's job number one. Job number two is, now, if I do in fact have the right person, now I need to back them up, right? I actually probably need to slow them down. So they're hyped up. They want to buy the solution, right? They see how it fits the problem. They want to go tell everybody, let's get on board with this. My job as a seller, I think, is to back them up and say, you see the problem clearly. You see the solution problem clearly. I guarantee Joe over here in customer success probably doesn't prioritize this the same way. So what I need you to do is not pitch the solution. What I need you to do is get a forum together where we can have a honest, open conversation and disagree about whether this is even the right problem to solve. And so that's where I think the job of a seller shifts dramatically. Because when I get the buying group together, most of us are taught, hey, that's where you sell the solution because it's limited access. Once you get in front of them, you got to sell it. I think that's completely backwards. When you get the buying group together, our role shifts from someone who's trying to convince someone to do something to someone who's saying, look, I'm a third-party facilitator. I'm going to ask questions to get you guys to disagree openly so that we can have an honest conversation about whether this is even the right problem to prioritize. And we're not going to talk about the solution at all until we decide, do we have consensus on the problem itself, how much it's costing us, and should we even do something about it? So I think, long way of saying, like, it takes a lot of restraint for we sellers to do that, because we feel like we're close to the finish line. But that's where these deals, I think, blossom, because that entire buying group is either on board with the problem or they're not. And so I don't have to waste my time trying to pitch or demo a solution if I know that the customer's like, yo, this isn't even the right problem to be solving.
Okay. Yeah, we could spend an hour on, like, individually each of those three areas. So okay, I want to make sure I'm on the same page with you. So you said the old way was you would push hard for consensus, like, later in the sales cycle, and it was really just to win the deal. It was all about, like, okay, now it's time. We know that we need to get so-and-so to sign this, and so-and-so needs to authorize this. It's going to come out of so-and-so's budget or whatever. Like, let's get these people involved so that they can, like, agree on the solution and then sell it. And what I'm hearing you say now, correct me if I'm wrong, is that earlier in the sales process, you're looking to build consensus much earlier and to do it around the problem first.
Yeah.
Then once we have that, yeah, okay.
No, that's exactly, like, I'll give you a perfect example. I would get a lot of people coming in saying, hey, I read the Challenger sale. I really want to buy training. I'm like, great, sweet. How many sellers and who needs to say yes? And then I get all the stakeholders on the phone and I'd be like, this is why Challenger's a better sales training program than what you're doing today. And half of them would be like, I don't even think we should be doing sales training. I think we should buy a piece of tech, right? And so I was neglecting that because I was pushing my solution, versus if I now go in, in my job when I was there, I would go in and say, let's talk about this problem of no decision. Like, do we actually understand how many deals we lose to customers just saying good is good enough? And as a result, what happens is you have an opportunity to teach and learn with the buying group. And by the end of that conversation, you either get people saying, shoot, we are losing way more to no decision than I realized, or no, we're fine and this other thing takes priority. But I'm always mindful of like my time is just as important as a buyer's. And so I don't want to convince people to buy a solution for a problem they don't prioritize. But I was just skipping that step previously.